Head on to our discussion, the first discussion of the day. Now, privatization occupies the center stage in the global economic liberalization and is regarded as an avenue for raising productivity and enhancing the overall economic growth. Now, this is achieved through increased involvement of the private sector in the productive economic activities through the sale of public enterprises to the private sector with a view to improving the economic efficiency. But in Nigeria's Labour Congress, the NLC has kicked against the proposed plans by the federal government to restructure the Transmission Company of Nigeria. The president of the Congress, Joe Ajaero, in a statement yesterday in Abuja, faulted the plan by the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, and declared that the plan portends danger to the power sector and holds great fear and trepidation for major stakeholders within the sector. NLC warned that the disaster that will befall the nation's power sector would be multidimensional if the plan is executed. It warns that the privatization exercise will end in tears as Nigerians are presently witnessing high tariffs. We have in the studio Dr. Buba Bindir, a former national coordinator, National Social Investment Program, the NSIP. Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you.
And also we have Jennings, Ekeanyanwu, the Executive Director, Center for Contemporary Issues and Policy Studies in Abuja. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, perhaps, Doctor, I should start with you, especially when it comes to Nigeria's power sector. So, the NLC once again has raised dust over the issues of privatization. It's almost as if anytime this conversation is brought to the fore, the organized labor will always come out to reject, more like they don't want to hear, anything about privatization. However, a World Bank report of 2021 estimated that the Nigerian government, along with public-private partnerships, invested about $27 billion in the power sector between 2005 and 2019. Now, this figure is not even the total estimate, of the investment. However, with so much money spent between this period of time and with what we are getting, do you think maintaining the status quo is the way to go?
Well, thank you very much. Very important question. You see, if you go to the bottom of it, the genesis of all this, privatization is a process of the public sector divesting in institutions, companies, activities that has a reasonably high content of private sector involvement for success, so that you can achieve a number of things. Number one, it is run properly. Number two, you get appropriate output. Number three, you attract technology so that the modernization and the technology transfer is dynamic. Number four, you make a lot of money because public is, and so on and so forth. So to do that, first of all, if the system is assessed that is not achieving these goals, it's not as efficient as it should be, it's not generating resources as much as it should, is not expanding and venturing into areas where it should over time, like other companies do, and so on and so forth. Government will look at it and say, look, we're not very good at managing this in the public sector way, and therefore the best is to privatize. Now, that privatization process can come totally or gradually. And it's understandable on the side of labor too. Now, once you privatize, it has to be run by private sector. Yeah. Private sector runs on the platform of profit. There's no Father Christmases in private sector, So if you're not good, if you're not contributing to better output of the institution, they will boot you out. They'll show you a way out. However, the responsibility of the runners and the managers of the system must ensure that they give you an opportunity to perform. So regular training and retraining, equipping you and tooling you, ensuring that you are supervised very, very well, ensuring that you are motivated so that your salary, your entitlements, your holidays and so on, all this is packaged. All of this cannot be run by the public sector. So to me, our country has to take a decision. If we want to privatize properly, we have to generate the energy to privatize. But you cannot have a quasi-public sector the staff, the equipment, the institution run by the private sector. And we've seen examples whereby there are privatization and it does not work.
Yes.
Because we again run around. It's just that the people, the ownership that you've changed, but still it continues like that. So there has to be an understanding that, look, yes, we cannot, if we take over, it cannot be like before. Because Einstein said, if you continue doing the same thing over time, expecting a different outcome, you must be stupid. You know. So,
Mr. Jennings, well, we've seen some form of partial privatization in the power sector, so especially with the distribution side. So while generation and transmission still remains, the responsibility of government, do you think that a full privatization of the sectors will address some of these problems or some of these issues that Dr. Bindir so mentioned?
Let me correct one. During your intro, you introduced me as Mesdam, and not Mesdam, Dr. Jennings.
Oh, doctor. Due apologies, doctor.
Yeah. The narrative of what they call privatization of national asset, or whichever one. There was an agency set up to actually address. It's a policy institution that was set up to address government, to give policy directives or direction to government, or how best institution can be managed. If you look at privatization, it's a true word. It's government say they want to privatize, but what I think that should have been done was that the government to be in cooperation or in conjunction with the private sector, because when you talk about privatization, the essence of it is to create efficiency. Maybe the high level, there's low level of productivities, and maybe government seems to be investing so much in the project, and they don't get the result. And like he rightly said, which I agree completely with him, that institutions or private sectors that have taken over the government establishments or institutions or projects are not in there for Father Christmas. That they are there to make profit. Whether they over make profit or they do not make over profit. The essence is they need to be functioning. To exist. So commercialization should have been the first aspect of if government want to go full privatization, that owning shares, it can ask people to own shares in government institutions where government feels that they need to fund this project or fund this institution, that we want to sell shares. They're not wrong about government going to commercializing their institution just to enhance profit, enhance productivity, because government at all level, no matter what you try to profess about governance, the essence of government is to provide services to the citizens. So if a government cannot provide services to its citizens, that what simply means that government is not worthy to exist, and it fails. So privatization in Africa, if you look at this at a context, as a case study, in some countries have tried privatization, it has worked for them. In some places it has not worked for them. So like in Nigeria, it came into existence during the Obasanjo regime. That was where the BP, the Bureau for Public Enterprises, were set up. They looked at some issues and looked at a government like Nigeria Airways. Some countries are today flying their national airlines. So why did Nigeria Airways decide to collapse?
Doctor, thank you for mentioning that, because during the Obasanjo regime, three major sectors, right? The telecommunication sector, the power sector, and also the aviation sector, saw at least some form of, if not full, privatization. The telecommunication sector is one that has been widely claimed to be successful, probably because of the non-participation of the government, in the playing field, as opposed to just taking up a regulatory position. Now, do you think that if perhaps this is the stance that it takes while privatizing other assets, we might record such success, albeit, increasing the tariff or the cost or the cost of services to Nigerians generally?
You know why the telecommunication sector became a success story? Not because of the policy incline of that project. It came because of the growing population of Nigeria. And at the time the telecommunication came into existence in Nigeria. When the GSM, what you call the GSM, came into Nigeria. It was a global thing, and the global thing is like during the COVID. What happens in Abuja affects Washington. What happened in Washington affects other cities of the world, the countries of the world. So Nigeria have no choice than to key into that technology, because it can't develop. A country can't move forward if it doesn't tap into global best practices. So privatization. Why is privatization not succeeding in Nigeria? It's because the government are not serious to privatize, and like you rightly said, their policies. If you look at the entirety of our business operations, in Nigeria, you find out that we're not friendly. There's some laws that are obsolete. In terms of regulation, the government seems not to be on ground to regulate, because look at for example, look at the classical example where the CBN with a monetary policy, with China policy, and the commercial banks are not obeying even the central bank, and that translates to even this what they call the POS. So they do things without regulation. Nobody sanctions anybody. So when you say you're privatizing, are you sure that you're not going to give those things into the hands of people that have nothing to offer? There's no competence. They don't have the capacity to actually take the proceed of what comes out from government institution. Like, look at NEPA. NEPA has not succeeded. From NEPA to PCA, nothing has actually changed. So this institution, government institution, they were giving out to people that didn't have little or nothing to add to what government gave to them. So they've not improved. That's because the essence of privatization is to enhance productivity and enhance service delivery.
All right.
So when you cannot enhance those things that you've been fronting, so it doesn't make sense to me.
All right.
Yes.
Let's come back to Dr. Buba. Dr. Buba, talking about what the government has privatized. I mean, at the same time, we would all agree that even the things that has been privatized, Nigeria have not really felt the impact yet. The TCN was the only thing that was spared when in terms of, because the Gencos and the Discos were privatized, and still the only thing that Nigeria could hold on to or get reminded of is the fact that the change that they witnessed was on tariff. The prices increased, but then there's still large number of people that are still not getting power supply. So even with this not being unsuccessful, do you think that Nigeria is still, the government is making the right choice to now privatize the only hold that they have on the power sector now? And what if we fall into that kind of dilemma again? Like, there is no change. So what is your take on this thing happening? Are we not making the same mistake again?
Well, the first thing, just as a chip in, is that we have to make a very, very clear demarcation between privatization and liberalization. These are not the same things. Privatization is government owns and it says, carry, give me my money and then continue. Liberalization, you open windows and doors for people to come in and practice. Now, when it comes to most of these highly technical oriented things, one thing that our country must understand is that an electrical generation, transmission, distribution, and marketing system, the efficiency doesn't drop from the sky. You have to work very hard at it. This is a fast-growing sector. If you want people to get it, towns are expanding, population is increasing, wealth and poverty is all interchangeably increasing and decreasing. All this you have to be conscious, and what guides you to succeed in this is your human capital. If you're not prepared, if your universities are not producing the right young people who are aggressive with technical competencies to venture into these things and make impossible possible, you're not going to make it. If you're not supporting your industry to mine from your research institutions, mine the technology from your own people, so that the development is to and fro, You generate the technology, I take it over on a license, I am making money, you are making money, you make more money because you are utilizing it, and this loop continues. If you are not doing that, it's not going to work. For us to sit in the air and think, oh, electricity is just going to happen like that because government is holding it or government is not holding it, this is just gimmick, and we're just continuously telling simplistic stories to us. For me, if you trace from ECN right to where we are now, the power sector, electricity is like water. First of all, you must have a source of water, right? And then you must draw the water to a reservoir, a tank, or a dam, and then release it to certain secondary spots before people can drink it. This is how electricity works. So the GenCos is the generation, and there are many aspects of generation. You can use gas to generate electricity, you can use water to generate electricity, and you can use the renewables to actually collect bits of electricity. When that electricity is sitting there, it is not good for you if you cannot move it nearer to people who are using it. That is the transmission. So you open pipes. You know, that is the transmission lines. And these are very complex things. The wires that we see, you just don't come and establish it like that. Look, the pylon, holding the lines, establishing that it's itself, it's a very heavy technology. If you don't want windstorm to blow it down, if you don't want people to come and bomb it down and so on and so on, it has to be strong enough. It has steel components. We don't produce steel. So the matrix is demonstrating to Nigeria that we are either serious people who realizes that we have market on one side, which is our people, and therefore we have demand, we can create wealth, we can create jobs, and we have resources that these people want. To connect these two, there are fundamental things, and these fundamental things are the things that we are not addressing. We're just talking about these two. Oh, people don't have electricity. Oh, GenCos are not generated. The middle is that the capacity and capability, right? The policy to open things up, reducing the risk for people to go in, encouraging Nigerians who are energetic, financially and technologically to be involved, not just open it for foreigners to come in and take advantage of our economy. These are the issues, and they are not simple issues.
Well, Dr. Jennings, I saw you nodding your head in unison to what he was saying. So perhaps you could elaborate more, especially because we know that generally governments are terrible business people. So how do we begin to address these issues when so much of our national wealth and our national structures are controlled by the government?
My take has always been this way, that politicians are not good leaders, whether they're in America, whether they're in Europe. I always subscribe that political leaders should be businessmen, people who have business inclination, because the essence of business is to provide services and so as to make profit. Now, government sets up an institution, it creates a job, it gives services to the people, even if it's communism or socialism or capitalism, survival of the fittest. At the end of the day, there's service delivery. But in this case, that government set up institution to provide jobs. At the end of the day, that institution collapses. Now, the people who run that institution are not coming from the sky. They're not coming from the moon. They are citizens. They're human beings. Now, some of them have high level of expertise. Some do not have high level of expertise. Now, most times you find out that why government institution failed is what I call policy somersault. If there's no consistent and policy drive, where government says, okay, we're going to run this institution to be transparent. It has to be open. And the essence of running that institution is to provide services to the citizens so that everybody can have access to what comes out of that business. Now, when government comes into power and decide to change a policy that is not friendly, Like I said, some of our laws are not obsolete. You know, Nigeria, it seems we've tried all humanly possible to create a friendly environment through new inroads in registration of companies, you know, making sure that people get justice. But, you know, people still don't believe that the business in Nigeria or businesses in Nigeria, you know, people can come in Nigeria, invest and get their returns because of some of these things: insecurity, inconsistency in government policy, and if government, you know, don't want to play by the rules. The same government that set up rules. Okay, look at, for example, the sacking of some of these people of the aviation industry.
Yes.
You don't come and overnight and sack people. Some of these people have experience. Some of these people have competences. You sack them. Then you bring in people that will favor you and, you know, that will answer yes, yes, yes to your own, you know.
So it's just strictly politics?
Yes. It's whims and caprices. You know, I had a gentleman who used to be a director of one of these agencies, you know, with, you know, experience. I don't want to mention his name. With experience. He flew 5 Nigerian presidents. He was director of operation in one of the agencies in the aviation industry. Overnight, because this guy refused to yield to the corruption system going on in the aviation industry, he was fired. He was retired. You know, so when you toil with the future of Nigerian people, all in the name of politics, all they want to, you know, give out this to your cronies, you know, it doesn't make sense. So I think what the government, any reasonable government, what to be thinking about is how do you, you know, look at the citizens? How can the citizen benefit from this policy?
Okay, Dr. Bindir, so many issues. There's the issues of how the privatization is done. There's also the issue of, upon acquiring some of these structures, the delivering of services is also an issue. I'm saying this because of the trauma that Nigerians continue to face, you know, in its power system. So it was privatized, there were distribution companies, and what Nigerians have to show for it is higher tariffs and a continuous collapsing national grid. So what's the way out? What should the government be thinking of putting in place to ensure that when they decide, or if they decide to continue to privatize some of Nigeria's assets, you know, service deliveries, excellent service delivery follows?
Well, I think these are common sense things. You see, Nigerians, when you give them information right from the beginning, up to any point you go to, if they are getting information and you're constantly pumping them with reality, meaning in quote, transparency, then a lot of your plans will actually go through. But when you're just sitting like this and you haven't got a clue to an ordinary Nigerian who requires electricity, once the bulb in his room is on, he does not have air conditioning, he doesn't have a fridge, even fan, once that bulb is on, to him electricity is available.
Yes, indeed.
You get what I mean? And you know it is this electricity that will empower you to process your food products, to create wealth, to create jobs for others. Many Nigerians in a class are not in that class. I can tell you for free that today, the president has launched his renewed hope. That's all the president can do, right? I am your boss, and I have declared an 8-point agenda, and I want to renew the hope for Nigerians. So Nigeria should be excited. This 8 points has to be decoded to Nigerians to know. Dr. Bindir, want to know that. How is my hope being renewed? What is the security? How is the food security? But this is not simple. Nigerians actually think this is simple. Decoding these 8 points to demonstrate that the multisectorality of it, you have to break walls. Security is not just the Ministry of Defense. It's not just police. Security is also food security. Security is also the traditional rulers, you know, with the families. Unless somebody opens the canals to show that you have to contribute, she has to contribute, he has to contribute, and we cannot contribute if you create islands. This is my own. I am state government. I am local government. I am federal government. I am this institution. And we're very good at this. We're very good at creating these islands. And you just, In fact, you can use all your resources to fight somebody who can help you to implement your mandate.
Then, Doctor, is the government now doing enough to create as much awareness as possible? Because, like you said, it's a policy document that is supposed to be for Nigerians, which means Nigerians have to digest and own this document. You know, they need to they need to manifest it. But I don't think that's the case from your explanation. So,
Well,
okay. Like I said in one of the radio stations that I made comment sometime early this week. I said that, you know, before the president was about to present the budget, I said to the radio station, I said, for me, I don't seem to understand what the budget is all about. I won't comment. You know, I don't have an insight of what the budget is all about until I see what the budget. For me, if you ask me, the budget seems not to be more explicit, like you rightly said. You know, it's the realities on ground. People need to see the realities. It's not about rhetorics. It's not about you have a target, you want to hit the economy of $1 trillion. You know, it's how do you achieve that? You need to break it down.
But the government is used to rhetorics and all of this.
You need to break it down. So, like, if you ask me, I keep saying the same thing, that this regime, for me, I don't understand where their drive is going in terms of economic policy. You know, what is the economic team? People are suffering. Nigerians are really suffering.
Well, I think their theme is to renew the hopes of Nigerians.
Yeah, so like Riley said, everything he said about the New Hope, I agree with him. Now, there is a gentleman in this town, a popular Nigerian, who bought one hotel. A popular hotel in this town. But go to that hotel and see the state of that hotel. No value added, just bought it from the government, and that's it. So the question I want to ask, why is the government selling up the national assets? Why are they selling, national monuments? There are things you don't sell. There are things you don't privatize. You can say, okay, let's everybody own. Let's have a general ownership. You can commercialize it. Put in the right people. You get what I'm saying? But not, you say you want to sell off this. Look at this NEPA thing. Look at the electricity sector. No value. The TCN, the transmission company, will say, our problem is transmission. The generating, we say our problem is generation. The other one will say distribution. So at the end of the day, are people really, enjoying the benefits of democracy?
Right.
And, that's
Sorry, Sumi, I need Dr. Bindir to answer this question. The issue of awareness and the responsibility of governments to creating such among Nigerians.
You see, let me tell you. Again, I do simple things. I'm an engineer by training. I do logical things. Today, as we sit here, as a Nigerian, you have the right to know all the electricity generation systems owned by government. Systems not owned by government. Small systems, big systems, gas-oriented, solar-oriented, water-oriented. This is database orientation. That is not just Geregu water. No. Yeah. Geregu was created on so and so. On the basis of so and so. The kind of technology we are using is the Russian technology of blah, 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 to generate this number of megawatts. And this is located on so and so. It was established, and when it was established, the management was A, B, C, D. And they worked until, this detail has to be done on every single thing. And then you come to the transmission. These are just lines. You get what I mean? They have pylons and they have lines. For us to empty that electricity, it's like a tank. You have to put pipe to empty the pipe to another smaller tank. This is where we have 33 kVA or 13 or whatever. A Nigerian needs to see this map. And you should know the specification. These are the kind of cables we're using. This is how high it is. This is the number. Don't go near this, and so on and so forth. And then until you come to this distribution, you have the transmission and all the small things that you see with 3 lines on top of the 3-phase, whatever, up to the houses. This data, clearly like this, is not available. It may be available in the offices of the PHCN. The engineers who are working electricity,
have access.
but Nigeria requires it. So when you come to privatize, and he sees that, oh, that Geregu has been established for the last 60 years, and it has not worked. The people have failed it. The transmission cables are breaking. And you say, hey, honestly, I don't think we should continue. We have been putting 100 billion naira in this every year. Nigeria will say, oh my God, and it's not working, and you're putting, I beg, get rid of it. Even if it is your cow, if the cow is just eating food, and it is not giving you milk, it is not getting fat, the natural thing is give it to somebody who knows what to do with the cow health, how cow breeding, and so on and so forth. You see, so this kind of info, and we have this structure. Look, from the president and the vice president, these are only two people running us.
Indeed.
Under them directly that they meet every single week is 40-something ministers from every state of this federation. If you do the elected ones, you go to the National Assembly, there are 109 senators, each one with his own senatorial district. They have the right to know what is happening in their senatorial and give the senatorial people. Below them, you have 360 members of House of Representatives in this National Assembly. When you go to the states, you have the state assembly, the local government chairman. There are nearly 10,000 ward councillors that we have elected. Each has got a tiny little ward. They must know, what is my generation? What is my transmission? What is my distribution? What is my marketing? The structure is there. But somehow, where I conclude is that once they call you a developing country, the definition of a developing country is a country that has domesticated doing the wrong things. You too, when you start doing the right things, you will become emerging economy and you will develop. So we're still in that bracket of we like doing the wrong things.
For the longest time. Doctor, talking on that, I want to emphasize on that. Could it be that corruption is one of the things, holding us down, especially the TCN? Because I think earlier last month we had, people that work there and we sat with them, and one of them was emphasizing on the fact that some major dignitaries in Nigeria don't even pay for to the transmission companies, saying that they have paid their own quota to the country. So could it be that when we at least get rid of corruption in the system, we could at least hold on to one part of the national asset that has been used to hold on to for the longest time with the taxpayers' money? Because right now Nigerians are losing hope in the government, saying that they easily get rid of national asset just like that.
Let me add to that, because we have moribund refineries across Nigeria, from the north down to the south. They are not working. They've not refined a single barrel of oil, but their staffs are being paid salaries and full entitlements. Doctor, I mean, it's been happening for years upon years upon years. And
you're still spinning around the same point.
Like you said.
Yes.
I mean,
you're spinning based on her question.
Yes.
Let me tell you, there are two big problems for Nigeria.
What are they?
One is corruption, as she says,
yes,
and the other one is poverty.
Okay.
Poverty is very, very high. I know people are using the word multi-sectoral poverty as a sexy word. There is no poverty that is not multi-sectoral. Poverty, but the two poverties one is absolute poverty, people who cannot drink clean water, they are not living in good houses, they don't have skills, and then relative poverty, you have 2 jeeps, I have 1, I am poorer than you. That one we forget about. It. Absolute poverty in this country creates the potential for corruption. Corruption creates more poverty. These two, we have to, like the life cycle of a fly. Life cycle of a mosquito, if you want to control malaria, break that life cycle. Remove water so that it does not breed. If it breeds, then introduce fish to eat all the pooper.
So what's the proverbial water and proverbial fish in this case?
The thing is that in the poverty level, we have absolute poverty very high everywhere in this country. And I think one interesting thing about the renewed hope agenda of the Mr. President is that it dances on 2 things, which is addressing poverty. 2 things.
Dances.
One is he wants to create jobs. 2, he wants to also generate wealth. These are the 2 that will look at this poverty. And I'm telling you, tariff, expensive, if I have income, who cares about tariff? Look at the fuel now. I complain in my house to my wife and everything, but I still say, oh, my dear, is your tank full? No, it's half tank. Oh, we better go and make sure that we get before they strike. And you go there, it was 7,000 before. Now it is 35,000. You don't complain. Why? because you have an income. But when that woman, my mom, who doesn't have an income, who has to catch Ekeanyanwu to go to the market to sell her vegetable, that fuel subsidy issue is a problem for her. So President is saying, all you my ministers, all you my institutions, my universities, concentrate and renew your ways to address the needs of these small people. This is now again the biggest challenge, because going down to the bottom to renew the hope of poor people is not easy. It is intellectualism, it is about data, it is about professionalism, it is about the fear of God. Everybody has to work together to ensure that. And I hope, Mr. President, also, well, I saw the monitoring structure. Everybody, like in the civil service, you must have a schedule under a particular scheme, and you are monitored constantly. I hope every 3 months, the President should be able to be briefed that we had this number of absolute poverty. These women who know how to smoke fish, who know how to extract oil out of granules, who knows how to fry puff, they are skilled at their level.
Yes,
but we have gone to these people, and now they are selling their puff every Thursday. Their fish is getting to Lagos from...
Doctor, you have spoken like quickly, a true director of the National Social Investment Program.
I want to hear quickly from Dr. Jennings here. I mean, the Minister of Power has come to debunk the fact that they plan on privatizing. They said they want to restructure. So if at all the plan, but because we all know that there is no smoke without fire, if at all they plan to privatize it, what would be your advice to them?
I've been in the system for a long time. Sometimes I'm very critical. I criticize the government, and as I do criticize the government, I also provide solution,
which is needed.
And for me, I think semantics, too many semantics in Nigeria. Too many people use too many words, and those words are not really encouraging. I'm still watching. I'm still sitting down watching, because I still don't understand the economic focus about.
So we demand transparency.
Yes, of this administration. Okay. I'm still watching. I'm still trying to look at it. 6 months, fine. It's not enough, but sometimes it's enough. For any country to succeed, there have to be a deliberate policy, and that deliberate policy must be specific in terms of addressing a short term, or a long term, or mid term. So you have to look at whether with this policy we want to do, is it going to last in the next? Okay. We're setting it for 1 year or 2 years. So if you don't have that roadmap, or how you're going to actualize your beautiful policy, paper, framework, or whatever, then everything is on paper.
All right, Dr. Jennings Ekeanyanwu, the Executive Director at the Center for Contemporary Issues and Policy Studies. Thank you so much for joining the program. And also, Dr. Buba Bindir, former National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program. Thank you so much for your perspectives and for making it such easier for Nigerians to understand the problems and how we can get to the solutions. I especially enjoyed your submissions around emerging economies, developing economies, and developed countries. Hopefully we'll have more to talk about subsequently on the program. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you for having us.